Jovan Buha! Buha!
Yo, I'm Jovan Buha, NBA reporter for Buha's Block, and welcome to another live show. Just got back from Crypto.com Arena, where the Lakers enjoyed their best win of the season up to this point. First overtime game and win of the season. They beat the Denver Nuggets 127-125 in OT. The Lakers have now won 5 games in a row. They are 42-25 on the season. They win the season series against Denver. In every game has stakes, especially at this point of the season going into the playoffs. We're less than a month away from the start of the postseason, end of the regular season. But this was a real game with real stakes. JJ Redick said after the game that LA approached this game as if it were a playoff game. I think we saw that with some of the lineup decisions down the stretch. We saw that with the rotation during the game. We saw that with the intensity and the way the Lakers started the game, the way the Lakers rallied. So LA is now number 3 in the West. They have a half-game lead over number 4 Houston, going now out on the road for a 6-game road trip, including 2 games in Houston on Monday and Wednesday. But they win the season series against Denver. Denver drops now to the 6th seed. They're 41-27, so they're a game and a half back of LA. And right now, this would be the 3-6 matchup in the first round, with the winner likely going on to face the San Antonio Spurs on the road in round 2. But just an epic win. The best game of the season for the Lakers, just from like an entertainment standpoint. There were some rough stretches in between the middle point of the second quarter into the late portion of the fourth quarter. Like quick overview of this game. Lakers get off to a remarkable start. This is, to me, what won the Lakers this game was how well they started this game. It was the inverse of the last game in Denver, where, remember, Denver got off to the 11-0 start and I believe was up 13-2 when the Lakers made their first sub, and that opening shift from the starters was the difference in the game, because from that point on, over the final 43 and a half minutes of that game, they outscored Denver by 6. It just wasn't enough because they had just gotten thrashed in the beginning of the game. Tonight was the inverse. The Lakers were the ones who got off to the great start. They're up 8 by the end of the first quarter. They lead by as many as 17 points in the second quarter. And then about midway through the second quarter, Denver starts to gain some momentum. They close the half, outscoring LA 18-12 to get it to a manageable 11 points at the half. And then a huge third quarter for Denver. The teams and so I think at that point, the Lakers were down 7 with 3.5 minutes left. So if you look at midway through the the second quarter, my brain is fried right now. It's just so much going on today. Like, this was still processing this game. But midway through the second quarter, Lakers are up 17. Late in the fourth quarter, Lakers are down 7. So you have a stretch here of like middle of the second quarter into late in the fourth quarter. Let's just say somewhere like 27, 28 minutes, where Denver outscores the Lakers by 24 points. It's a massive turnaround from down 17 for Denver to +7 after an Aaron Gordon 3 late in the fourth quarter. And some big shots and plays by Luka down the stretch, hits a step back 3, gets fouled by Jamal Murray on a 3 that would lead to Jamal Murray fouling out on, it was his 5th foul. Then he fouled out at the beginning of overtime. That Luka makes all 3 free throws. And then Austin Reeves with the first play of the game, because Luka hits the game winner, but Austin, of course, misses or makes a couple free throws, then gets fouled again, makes the first one, intentionally misses the second one. JJ and Luka were both joking that JJ had said for Austin to miss right, because that was supposed to be they wanted him to miss to the single side where it was just one Laker and one Nugget, but it actually ended up being the left side where it was the single side. So he misses left. DeAndre Ayton does a nice job of sealing Nikola Jokic and preventing him from getting the rebound, also preventing him from really contesting Austin. Austin collects it, throws up the floater, ties the game with 1.9 seconds left. Denver doesn't have a timeout at that point. They hoist up. I mean, Jamal Murray actually got like a decent look, but it was just not Jamal Murray's night. It misses a half court shot. It goes to overtime. Lakers out execute them. We will be touching on the late game masterclass for the Lakers. But then Luka hits the game winner, gets the game sealing block on THJ, and just an incredible win for the Lakers. This to me, I mean, let's shout out the chat first. Shout out to the late night gang. Shout out to everybody watching. I appreciate you guys. Let's get into Buha's big picture. So Buha's big picture is LA passes its biggest test of the season, in parentheses so far, because there will be some bigger tests coming up potentially, depending on how the road trip goes, depending on like later in the season, Lakers will, like, every game will matter in terms of seeding and stakes. But of course, this game mattered for seeding and stakes. And this was a huge win for LA to win the tiebreaker. But I will acknowledge, I've said in 3 of the past 4 games that the Lakers enjoyed their best win of the season. And I have meant it. I'm not hyperbolic by nature, but I think each of these wins has been increasingly more impressive. So, the Knicks game was a great win. A Timberwolves win was a great win. I think that one mattered a little bit more for me just because that was a potential first round opponent for the Lakers. And it really cemented like the early season success against Minnesota was not a fluke. That was real, and they have had Minnesota's number this season. So that was a huge win. And then they follow this up with a win against Denver, who those of you who are regular listeners to the show know how high I am on Denver. I've repeatedly said I think they have the second highest ceiling in the league behind OKC when they are fully healthy. They just played OKC a couple times in the past couple of weeks. One of those games went to overtime. They lost by 3. One of those games they lost on a Shea walk-off. They pushed OKC to 7 games last year. They have been one of the most injured teams in the league. They have a guy who's won 3 MVPs, Finals MVP, a title. Like they've got the championship DNA. And you saw they landed some big haymakers against the Lakers, and the Lakers absorbed those. And that was to me what elevates this win to a different level than the Minnesota and New York wins was like there were some similarities of LA playing really well, getting out to the double-digit leads, having the impressive first halves. But unlike New York and Minnesota, like New York went on the run in the fourth, and I think they got it to like 8 or so. The Lakers were never really on the ropes in that one. Like they were pretty comfortably leading. That was a wire-to-wire win. Lakers never trailed. Minnesota, it was a rock fight early that first quarter. But once the Lakers got some momentum, they tied it going into the half. They had just a dominant third quarter. They blew the game open, and Minnesota got it to, I think, maybe like 14-16 at one point. But the game was over. This was different. The Lakers were playing, in my opinion, a different caliber of opponent. I think Denver is a tier 1 contender. I think they're in the back end of tier 1, but to me, they are a tier 1 contender. Minnesota and New York are tier 2 contenders. So this is a different weight class. This is a different caliber of opponent. This is a core that has won a championship together and has a track record, especially against the Lakers. I'm sure some of you saw there was a stat circulating of since 2021, no team has a better record against another team than Denver has against the Lakers. Entering tonight, Denver was 18-7 against the Lakers, including the playoffs. So Denver has had LA's number for several years now, including sending them home twice in the postseason. And so there's some history here. And there was also the stakes of like this season series was up for grabs. The Lakers won the first matchup. Denver won the second one. They're only playing 3 times. This was a big game. And so I say all that to say that the Lakers absorbed Denver's haymakers, and they could have folded. They could have like down 7 with 3.5 minutes left. On paper, that should be a Denver win. Even down 3 with a few seconds left, Austin is able to corral the offensive rebound and score that bucket. Like they could have lost there. They could have lost in overtime. Denver had overall outplayed them going into overtime. Like all the momentum had been on Denver's side until the very last few seconds of the fourth quarter. So the Lakers absorbed several haymakers and blows from Denver. Jokic had another triple-double in a monster game. Tim Hardaway Jr., Bruce Brown, Aaron Gordon are basically hitting everything. And Denver just was playing with a certain confidence that when the Lakers have historically faced that over the last few years, they folded. And it did. It reminded me of the 2023 playoffs. It reminded me of the 2024 playoffs where LA's playing at a certain level. They look like the better team for the first half, first three quarters. Denver, possession by possession, just chipping away. And then Denver's won a lot of those games in the clutch. But this felt different. This felt like, LA has fared much better against Denver since trading for Luka, and Luka has had his success going back to Dallas against Denver, and has really flipped this matchup on its head in terms of just having Luka versus Denver versus having AD. But I think tonight, like, everybody stepped up. Everybody that closed the game made several big plays. Luka, you have the step back, drawing the 3-point shooting foul. You have the behind the back assist to Marcus for the bucket that sent LA up by 2. Then you have the game-winning jumper and recognizing time and score and one to attack. Then you also have the game-sealing block on THJ. It felt like an odd play from Denver and not really the way that they wanted that final possession to go, but passed it to THJ. He had to loft it up, and Luka blocked it. So Luka made several huge plays, including the biggest play of all with the game-winning shot, and then again, the stop. Austin Reeves with the intentionally fouling, missing the shot, the free throw intentionally, making the floater. Like, he had some turnovers in the fourth quarter, some really just egregious turnovers. There's really no other way to frame it, but he scored 14 of LA's 31 in the fourth. He had half of their points in the fourth quarter, and he made several big shots, several big plays. His driving tonight was a huge, like, he cooked Jamal Murray. He was cooking everybody off the dribble from the Denver side. Some really big plays from Austin, particularly in that fourth quarter. LeBron diving on the ground for a couple of loose balls, beating Christian Brown in particular to a couple of those loose balls, finding DA in OT. And I think that sparked a different level of engagement from DA with a nice little pass to him for a paint finish from DA. Like, LeBron just did a lot of the little things tonight, and I thought really built on what he was doing in the Chicago game, and was the perfect Swiss Army knife for LA tonight. And with the screening, getting out in transition, attacking mismatches, his passing out of the post, he made just several huge contributions tonight. Marcus Smart scoring 21. Like, this was a game that I was talking about it with a few people before the game, but this was a game the Lakers needed their role players to step up. If again, you look at what Denver was able to do, Denver got 20 off the bench from Tim Hardaway Jr., 12 off the bench from Bruce Brown. Aaron Gordon had 27. Cam Johnson had 18. That was all partly offset by Jamal Murray having his worst performance against the Lakers that I can remember, with only 5 points, 1 for 14 shooting, missed 12 straight shots at one point, ended up fouling out. But Denver got a lot of contributions from their supporting cast tonight. And Marcus Smart, with his 21 points, hitting 5 threes, but 5 steals as well. And so there's a jump ball situation on one of those loose balls LeBron dives on the ground for, and LeBron improbably loses the jump ball to Jamal Murray. Aaron Gordon gets it, and then Marcus Smart just pressures him, steals the ball, goes and lays the ball over him. You saw Aaron Gordon loading up to try and block it. Marcus still finishes over him, and that was a huge play. Then DA, I thought, had a forgettable first 3.5 quarters, and based on the way the rotation was going, JJ was leaning more into Jackson and small ball, and Jackson and small ball was overall going to end up having more combined minutes than DA. But he goes to DA late to close the game, plays DA in OT. He has a couple of offensive rebounds, a couple of nice finishes. He had the seal for Austin to get the offensive rebound and finish. He also had a nice block on Jokic. So DA, after I think underwhelming and being disappointing through the first 3.5 quarters, JJ went back to him and he delivered, and he was awesome tonight down the stretch of this game in like late fourth quarter into OT. So those 5 primary guys as the starters, the guys who closed this game, everyone contributed to some part of this win. And that's what I think, again, kind of adds a different wrinkle of, okay, like, it's nice to have a wire-to-wire win against the Knicks. It's nice to have, a game where you break open the third quarter against the Wolves with Luka and Austin. This, to me, was a bit different. And also, most importantly, they did this with the big 3. And so the final piece to all of this was, we've talked all season about the Lakers' struggles against teams in that 600 and above club, but that is trended in the right direction recently with a couple close losses, then finally getting over the hump against New York and Minnesota. But they were 6-12 in those matchups going into tonight. None of the 6 wins came with all 3 of the big 3. It had always been 2 of the big 3 or 1 of the big 3. And they finally slayed that dragon tonight, and I think put a lot of the noise to rest, at least for the time being. If they go 2-4 in the road trip, I'm sure some of that chatter will rise up again. But this was a big, to me, proof of concept win that this can work with the big 3. The Lakers can win the minutes with the big 3, and they can close a game with the big 3 against a really good opponent. So just a great win for the Lakers, an epic win for the Lakers. They out executed, like, Denver's clutch record is not good this season. They're 17-18 in the clutch. They've lost several. I think Adam Mares of DNVR just tweeted it out. Like, they've lost to OKC a couple times recently. They lost to the Clippers, the Lakers, the Pistons. They've had a bunch of, and I think all those losses were by like 3 points or fewer. So they've had a lot of these heartbreakers lately. But still, this is a team that, like, when they're on, and they have been above 500 in the clutch the past 4 seasons, they have, like, Lakers have seen it firsthand. This is a crunch time juggernaut who often execute at a high level late in games, and LA out executed them. And this also, to me, is a nice feather in the cap for LA's clutch success this season, because as we've discussed, like, half of those wins have been against sometimes like LA kind of messing around, and they're playing New Orleans or they're playing whoever, and they're in control of the game, but then they give up a run. It technically goes to the clutch, and then they close it out. This was not that. This was, again, a heavyweight bout against one of the best teams in the NBA. LA stood their ground, and they came out the victor. And just not much else you could ask for from the Lakers. So they go into this road trip at the peak of the season. They've won 5 in a row, 8 of 9, 3 seed in the West. The vibes are high around the team. Just things are great right now for the Lakers, and job's not finished. They gotta, I think, at least go 3-3 on this road trip. They gotta keep building off of this, but this is, I think, definitely the high point of the season up to this point, and it's really important that they're building and ascending at the right time. So again, I think this is just a lot to like coming off of this win. In terms of notable performers, we've already touched on the 5 starters a little bit, but we'll go through them relatively quickly. So Luka, 30 points, 11 rebounds, 13 assists, so another triple-double for him. He and I almost called him Lokic. Jokic had, they basically had the same line going into the fourth quarter in terms of a 20-point triple-double, and they were going kind of bar for bar there for a while. But Luka hits the game winner. He gets the game sealing block, and didn't have the most efficient night, just 10 for 26 from the floor, so under 40%. It felt like he had a couple of air balls. It just felt like his legs weren't quite, really for the whole team, like especially in that second half. Part of LA had a magnet ball to start this game. 5 of their first 7 shots were 3-point makes. They started the game only taking threes. Their first 7 shots were all threes, but they had a magnet ball to start. It progressively went away. Then Denver had a magnet ball. But Luka, despite he only took a couple shots in the fourth quarter, but that step back three was a huge shot that he made, then drawing the foul on Murray, and then making the big plays in OT, including the pass to Smart, the game winner, and then the game sealing block. So wasn't Luka's like prettiest or most aesthetic performance, but made big plays when it mattered and ultimately contributed to the win. And I will note too, like made some big free throws because he was 3 for 6 entering that stretch of the 3 free throws, made all 3 of them, finished 6 for 9. But 6 turnovers, that part, could have been a little sharper too. But ultimately I look at the steal, the 3 blocks, including again, the last one on THJ. Like Luka, this was one of those performances where he just gutted it out and he found ways to contribute. And I think outside of the shot, some of the shot efficiency and some of the turnovers, like you look at 11 rebounds, 13 assists, and 4 stocks. Like he was really contributing tonight, and then ultimately iced the game with several big plays in OT. Austin Reeves, 32 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 12 of 21 shooting. Another incredibly efficient night from Austin. 3 of 8 on threes, 5 for 6 at the free throw line. Scored 14 of his 32 points in the fourth quarter and was really carrying LA's offense during that period as they made their comeback. He also had a steal and a block. The hand-eye coordination to perfectly time that miss and the trajectory of it to collect it, hit the floater, just a huge play. One of the biggest plays of the season. I mean, there's no overtime and there's no opportunity to win the game if Austin doesn't do that. So, he also had he had 0 turnovers through the first 3 quarters, 3 turnovers in the fourth quarter, and just some really bad telegraphed passes that went directly to Nuggets players. But despite that, I thought Austin put that behind him and still found a way to be effective in that fourth. Made the big play, sent it to OT, and then the Lakers prevailed. Marcus Smart, 21 points. I'm going to touch on Marcus and DA in one of my other takeaways, but Marcus Smart, 21 points, 5 steals, 5 threes. He was huge tonight. Like I continue to say this, I will beat this drum until I'm blue in the face. Marcus Smart is the Lakers' 4th best player. Marcus Smart is the Lakers' 4th most important player. Marcus Smart is a winner. He is a 16-game player. And I think now we have enough of a sample size here. I think he's been better than Dorian Finney-Smith. And that's no shade at DFS. He was huge for the Lakers and he was a plus-minus beast. He unlocked LA's small ball looks, but Marcus has fit into both traditional lineups and small ball lineups. And he's not perfect. Again, we could talk about shot selection sometimes and turnovers and sometimes being over aggressive and fouling and whatnot. But overall, he has just been a monster in terms of impacting the Lakers. And for what it's worth, led the team again in plus minus. Lakers were plus 16 in his 35 minutes. No other Laker was higher than plus 7. So just the Lakers always win the minutes when Marcus is on the floor. Even in a lot of losses, they win the minutes when Marcus is on the floor. Dude's just a winner. And again, with him, it's not always the prettiest basketball, but he just makes plays and he's this was to me probably his best game of the season. I think there's a few games we could put in consideration, but given the stakes and how many big shots he made, plus the 5 steals and the multi-positional defense, also being the primary guy on Murray, going 1 for 14, Marcus was great tonight. LeBron, 17 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals for LeBron. Efficient night, 7 for 13 shooting, hit a big 3, 2 for 3 at the free throw line, and 5 turnovers. So he was another one who at times was telegraphing passes. The big 3 combined for 14 of the 16 turnovers. Each one was 3+ turnovers. Too many turnovers collectively for those 3 guys, and they have to be. Each of them has to be sharper in that regard. We talked about it with the usage with those guys. You really don't want to be above 4 turnovers. Ideally, I think that's kind of the most you can tolerate. But LeBron again doing the dirty work tonight. I think the LeBron Aaron Gordon matchup is really interesting, just based on. I think the way that the Lakers have been trending, at least these last few games, if it is going to be more Luka and Austin as the two heads of the snake offensively, then the Lakers kind of need LeBron in that Aaron Gordon role. And it's not a bad role to be in because Aaron Gordon had 27 points tonight. And he, I think, is an indispensable piece of Denver. Like, you look at their defense when Aaron Gordon is on versus off, and how much they've struggled defensively when he's been out. Like, I think LeBron can have that type of impact on the Lakers and also do it in a different way, where tonight they really spammed. I thought they could have done a better job of that in the fourth quarter as well. But like the mismatches, running pick and rolls to get Smalls switched on him, get Murray switched on him, and then operating out of the post. I thought they had a lot of success with that. Then DA again, I thought like first three quarters, I think he started 0 for 2, or maybe 1 for 3, something like that. And he got stripped a couple times. He got blocked at the rim by Aaron Gordon. He missed a layup. He even had like an and one opportunity, missed that layup, then started 0 for 3 at the free throw line, ended up going 1 for 4 overall, but like kept at it. JJ, going back to him, I thought like a lot of confidence and trust in DA to close the game. And based on, I mean, they were going with Jackson, then they were going small, then they closed with DA situationally to close the fourth quarter. They easily could have gone back to Jackson or small ball. Instead, they closed with DA. And as I mentioned, a couple big offensive rebounds, a couple big finishes, block on Jokic, and just, I mean, that was his best stretch of the game. That was his best stretch against Denver. I thought up to that point he had not played well against Denver in the 3 matchups, but he was given a certain amount of trust and he rewarded it tonight. And I think that's a huge thing for his confidence, for his state of mind, and for LA moving forward. Like if he can be that reliable in some of these big moments, which has been very up and down, I think that's a big thing for the Lakers. Off the bench, Rui had some big pull-up mid-range jumpers. He entered tonight, the stat per friend of the show, Jason Timpf, shooting 58% on mid-range jumpers, which led the league in terms of players with 100 or more attempts. So tonight cashed 3 of those. Missed his threes, but it was a part of LA's switching scheme and was an innings eater against Jokic. Like I thought he arguably did the best job against him of, if you're comparing him, Jackson, and DA. Like DA at the end, I think ultimately did the best job, but during the meat of the game, up until the end, I thought Rui arguably did the best job against him. And like Jackson got overwhelmed. Like I thought Jackson played like fine, but he kind of got overwhelmed, and Jokic ate his lunch several times. He also finished with 4 fouls in 21 minutes. Like Jackson was decent tonight. One thing LA really struggled with offensively, and this was like the cat and mouse game between Denver's defense and LA's offense, was Denver really sold out to protect the rim, protect the paint, cut off those lob attempts. Because remember, the last game in Denver, Luka and Austin were killing them, and LeBron were killing them with those lob and dump off passes to DA and Jackson. I mean, DA played one shift, but he had a couple opportunities in that shift, and then Jackson had feasted the rest of the way. So they cut that off, and that limited and sort of neutered Jackson and DA to an extent during most of the game. But I thought Jackson, solid game overall from him. Like played with the typical Jackson energy, just didn't have the same offensive opportunities. Luke Kennard had his minutes slashed a little bit, only played 16 minutes, had a couple of assists. And I think this is more in line with what I would expect his role to be. I think I've said it before. I view him as more like a 15 to 18 minute a night playoff guy. That was in line with tonight. Jake LaRavia didn't play in the first quarter. They adjusted his role, only played 5 minutes in the first half, I think 6 in the second half. Jake, I will note, had a couple of big buckets in this one, including a drive early in the fourth quarter. Like Lakers offense was in the mud. DA set a nice Gortat screen, which is code for a legal screen in the paint that gets a driver open, and refs rarely call it. And Jake got a nice drive, and I thought had some nice defensive moments as well. So just overall team win for LA. Everybody contributed in some form or fashion, and especially the key guys, the starters, the closers, they all made their mark tonight. In terms of stat of the night, so many numbers we could look at. The big thing for me was points off turnovers. So the Lakers actually ended up having more turnovers than Denver. They had 17 turnovers. Denver had 16. But LA capitalized far better off of turnovers than Denver did, outscoring them 33-17 in points off turnovers. And when you look at some of the things in terms of like LA started shooting much better than Denver, but Denver ended up making 5 more threes than them. And they were the better shooting team tonight. Denver shot better at the free throw line. Denver had fewer turnovers. Denver had more assists, but LA out-rebounded them. And I thought when it really mattered most, they were able to win a lot of those 50-50 battles and just kind of out-grind them, just muck it up in a positive way. And I think the points off turnovers were like a swing factor that just LA was able to generate a lot more opportunities and baskets off of that compared to Denver, where I don't think they quite capitalized on it enough. And that was part of what was ultimately the difference in this game. And then through the takeaways, I'm going to go through these ones quickly and then get into the Q&A here. Takeaway number 1, late game masterclass. So I talked about this a bit during the big picture portion, but I just want to highlight some of the big plays that the Lakers made tonight. And so the Lakers I mentioned, we'll cut to down 7 with 3:38 left. And this is like the big part of the game where they're down 6 or 7, no pun intended, but with about just under 4 minutes left. Jackson gets fouled twice, and Jackson goes 3 for 4 at the free throw line. And that keeps LA putting up points on the board. Jokic fouls him twice. Murray and Johnson have a couple of misses. Austin gets a steal. And then Luka hits the step back 3. He had been 0 for 1 on threes and shots in the fourth quarter. Then Lakers got to stop. Luka draws the foul on Murray, his 5th foul, makes all 3 free throws, excuse me. Then Lakers, Austin turns the ball over. Aaron Gordon hits a 3 that feels like a shot that is maybe icing the game, but then Austin follows that up with a layup. LeBron turnover, but then jump ball. Smart steals it, gets the layup over Gordon. Jokic had 2 just utterly ridiculous passes tonight. The above, and they're actually both to THJ. The behind the back over the head pass to THJ on the back cut, and he finished that over LeBron. And then that baseball pass, like Luka nearly got to it. And that's actually a pass that Luka, I think Luka had stolen or someone else had stolen. Like Jokic had a couple of rough, he had like a couple that he fired to the corner just out of bounds. And then he had another one that got stolen. And the like calculus to be like, I'm going to sort of like, it was almost like a curveball and sort of like curving it that to the corner. Just I don't know. That is just an absurd pass, but makes that pass to THJ. THJ has like no real estate in the corner, cashes that, and Luka closes out, but like there's just nothing you could do there. Then Austin misses. Gordon is fouled, but he only makes 1 of 2. Then Austin gets fouled, makes both free throws. And what's going to be interesting with this game is when you rewatch it and just kind of think through some of the late game strategy. Like this tonight was the argument against fouling when you're up 3, especially with 6 seconds left. Like the Lakers, who knows? But hindsight's 2020. In retrospect, if I'm Denver, I almost wonder if like the Lakers had not been in a great groove from deep up to that point, and like Luka did hit the step back, but they had been relatively cold on threes for quite a while. And I almost wonder if you take that gamble and like don't allow, like, if they miss a 3 there, the game's basically over unless they somehow get an offensive rebound and kick it back out. Like they would have had to have gone a little bit earlier, and Denver would have probably had more time left compared to fouling Austin, him getting the offensive rebound, hitting the jumper, and then you have 2 seconds left. Like if worst case scenario, it's tied, and then you have like 4 seconds left, you could do a little bit more, but it's debatable, right? And there's 2 schools of thought with that, and hindsight's always 2020. But Austin makes 2 free throws, foul Cam Johnson. He makes both free throws. Then Austin makes the first, misses, offensive rebound, makes it, and Lakers go into OT. In OT, we'll just kind of go through the quick buckets in OT. DeAndre Ayton, offensive rebound, put back. Then Christian Brown gets fouled, makes both free throws. DeAndre has a little hook off of an interior pass from LeBron. Gordon makes a step back three. He was just hitting everything tonight. Luka finds Smart for three with the behind the back pass, draws two, makes the right read there, and huge. I mean, if Marcus misses that might have been the game. Then Jokic is blocked by DA on a drive, but then he gets the ball back and takes him down again and scores over him. Then Luka gets they send two at Luka, but they're a little bit late with it. He reads it perfectly. He beats Spencer Jones to the left and is fading, step back, fade away, and swishes that, and then gets the block on THJ. So just a masterclass from LA down the stretch in terms of execution and big play after big play. Notice I mentioned several guys there of, again, Austin with his sequence, Luka with several sequences, Marcus with the three, DA with a couple offensive rebounds and finishes, LeBron diving on the ball a couple times and saving possessions for the Lakers. Like everybody just did a little bit a little bit that added up to a lot. Then takeaway number three, I just want to highlight Marcus Smart and DeAndre Ayton as stars in their roles tonight. Like those two guys, again, DA down the stretch of the fourth quarter and into overtime, and just like he's been a guy who, I think sometimes when when JJ has a quicker hook with him, he doesn't always respond the best way. And JJ had a relatively quick hook with him tonight. And with the way the game was trending, Jackson was going to play more minutes than him, but JJ decided to close with Ayton. And again, Ayton rewarded him in a big way and was able to be a force out there down the stretch in a way that I don't think he was quite the same through the first 3.5 quarters. Then Marcus Smart, I already waxed poetic about him, but he's just the ultimate role player. He's a winner. He's been huge in a lot of the Lakers' best wins, biggest wins. He just makes stuff happen. And I think if the Lakers are to win a series or make any noise in the playoffs, Marcus is going to play a big role in that. And then takeaway number three, a quick look at the potential playoff rotation. So one of the things I've been saying over the last few weeks is that with how things have been trending post trade deadline, post Luke Kennard acquisition, that Vando is the 10th guy in the rotation. As I said, coming off of last game, with Marcus being out and Vando still not even playing a full 10 minutes, that this likely indicated Vando was going to be a DNP CD in big games moving forward, or in a playoff setting. Tonight, Vando DNP CD. Lakers only went with 9 guys, and only 2 of the guys off the bench played more than 16 minutes in Rui and Jackson. So it does feel like at this point it's the 5 starters plus Rui as the 6th man, Jackson as the 7th man, who's splitting time with DA, depending on the matchup, depending on who's playing better. Luke as the 8th guy, Laravia as the 9th guy, and then Vando as the 10th guy, who's maybe situationally in the rotation. I thought JJ acknowledging and admitting after the game that this was a playoff simulation for them in terms of how they wanted to approach it with the minutes, with the rotation. It checked out with what we've seen over the past month or so coming out of the deadline. And now we have a clear idea of a month from now when the Lakers start the postseason, this, assuming everyone can stay healthy over the next month, this is sort of the vision in terms of the hierarchy and where everyone's at in the rotation. But with all that said, let's get into the Q&A. See, we already got 18 super chats. I appreciate you guys. Let's get into it. Cage Britt, thank you for the super chat. Was at the game. Holy shit! With excuse my French. I know we got some based on the super chat on Lakers Collective. I know we got some middle schoolers in the chat tonight, so I apologize. Don't do as I say, do as I do. or not. But yes, cage break, like incredible atmosphere tonight. I thought it was like a little. It took a little bit to pick. Like the beginning was great. Then there was that middle portion where obviously like the Lakers were sort of in a malaise, but down the stretch, like that was an incredible crowd and an incredible atmosphere. And like, just for me, the highlight, I mean, the best win of the season, but like the highlight of the season in terms of just like most fun I had individually at a game of just like, you didn't know what was going to happen. And there was the highs and the lows of it looked like Denver had stolen the game back and was going to win. And we were going to come on here and have a somber post game. And it was going to be Lakers blew a 17-point lead and some of their bad habits or taking the foot off the gas caught up to them. But then that closed to the game, and in OT, just so many big shots, so many big plays, and LA pulled it out. And yeah, it was just really fun game. Like regardless of the result, it was a fun game, but LA getting the win, obviously huge. It was just a great game, great win, great atmosphere. Just awesome to be there. Jay, thank you for the super chat. Oh my God, the basketball is fun. Braun diving on the floor, smart clutch threes and steals. AR at the free throw line, DA and OT, and Luka absolutely nails this team. LFG. Yes, this was I mean, you laid it out. Like everybody contributed. It was a fun game. I mean, look, we had not had an overtime game for the Lakers this season. So like that in and of itself was fun, and just extra basketball, 5 extra minutes. Yeah, this was huge win and very, very fun game. K_arc. Glad, thank you for the super chat. Glad Luka commented on the crowd, brought back the old Laker crowd feel. I agree. I know, I will say, I think the crowd in general has been better than some have made it out to seem. I think people have been a little overly critical of the crowd at times this season, but tonight was, yes, like you had the juice of Saturday night matinee, prime time ABC game. Like this was just a lot of juice in the arena, and also adding in, I think Denver is not well liked in Los Angeles. Denver is not a well liked team by Lakers fans, right? And you have the recent history, and even like, I mean, I thought like Bruce Brown getting into it with DA, he took him off the dribble, drew a foul there, and then was chirping at DA, and the crowd did not like that. It was raining down the booze. So yeah, it was just like you have a natural villain in the Nuggets with some of their success against the Lakers over the last few years. And then you also have like Luka having a moment. And I think that was one of the things, like I sort of alluded to it, but like, I mean, this was Luka's first game winner as a Laker, and following up his first 50-point game as a Laker with that shot. I just felt like Luka continues to like you build a history with a player as a fan base, and you go through the ups and the downs, but like these moments are very formative. And I think Luka's peaking at the right time. The Lakers are peaking at the right time. And I think that has been great for the fan base, right? And you're seeing them respond to that in a great way. So I thought this was just a huge win and huge boost from the crowd. Jay, thank you for the super chat. Shout out Braun, man. Clearly buying into this role, and his ability to still reinvent himself at this stage of his career is impressive. Yeah, and I want to be clear, like, I think when we talk about LeBron and the sacrifice and certain things, it's like, it's honestly, I think, more like impressive than anything. I think impressive is the right word here, where LeBron is a Swiss Army knife, and he's one of the most versatile, if not the most versatile player we've ever seen. He's a player who in his prime, and even I would say up until recently, I mean, you could really throw him out at any position, but like, I think ideally he's more of a full-time 4, and then can sometimes play 5 in small ball groups depending on the lineup. But in his prime, could play any position, could attack from anywhere on the floor, really developed as a post player after the 2011 finals, really developed his 3-point shot during the mid 2010s. And just like every weakness he has had, he has found a way to overcome it and add that wrinkle into his game. So the growth of his game throughout his career and the versatility to be able to wear different hats regardless of the circumstance, like I think that is something to be lauded and appreciated. And I want to be clear on that. So yeah, him taking coming off the Chicago game, he had attempted 7 fewer shots than AR. Tonight, 8 fewer shots than AR. So he has taken a step back as he has returned and been more of that third option. Technically, it was the fourth option tonight. Marcus Smart took 2 more shots than him, though a lot of that was by design with how Denver was guarding or not guarding Marcus at the 3-point line. But yeah, LeBron just doing a little bit of everything. And like that's part of his brilliance, part of his greatness. And I think it is something to be acknowledged and appreciated. An NBA enjoyer, thank you for the super chat. Dominating, cleaning glass, putbacks, Jokic stops. I'm there. He's restored my faith. He knows this is how he gets paid. How about that Laker defense? Yeah, this was a game. On that note, this was a game where both teams got it out the mud in terms of Lakers had a 113.5 offensive rating, which is not good. That is a below average offensive rating, but a 111.8 defensive rating, which that is pulling it up here for where that would rank on the season. If we extrapolated that out, 111.8 is tied for 6th best defense in the NBA, tied right there with New York. So LA offensively was scoring at 19th ranked offense level, but a 6th ranked defense level. So yeah, LA, the defense tonight, I mean, I want to be clear, like there were some low lights, there's some low moments that stretch from middle of the second into late in the fourth. Denver put on a clinic. They sliced and diced the Lakers. They did absolutely whatever they wanted. And there were certainly some things the Lakers can do better and learn from this game and move forward with, like, there's some lessons to be clear. But the first quarter and a half and the end of the game, the end of the fourth into overtime, some great defense from the Lakers. And to your point, dominating had some big plays, and he was awesome down the stretch. Connor Phillips, thank you for the super chat. I fell asleep before the game, got a rewatch. Yes, you do need to rewatch. After my stream is over, I recommend rewatching immediately. And I'm going to playfully shout out my guy, Tyler, who said he had to sell his tickets tonight because he had Oscar rehearsals, but he regretted that one, and I ribbed him after the game about that. So yeah, tough one to miss, but hey, the good thing is you know the ending, and honestly, you're gonna have less anxiety throughout the like final few minutes in overtime because you know the Lakers are gonna pull it out. But yeah, really fun rewatch. I would recommend it. Christian, thank you for the super chat. This is my first live game ever. It was incredible. That's awesome. I will say not every NBA game is as great or as entertaining, but for your first one, like that's a game you are never going to forget. I mean, that's an awesome first game to be at. So shout out Christian that you picked a hell of a game to attend. Cage Britt, thank you for the super chat. Braun dive, smart steal, DA block, winning plays. Yes, so many winning plays. And that's why, again, I know, like, sure, there's some disappointment in this game, especially that middle portion and things that the Lakers can clean up and be sharper with, be better with. But I almost like that they faced some adversity in this game and had an obstacle to overcome. And it was like, can you be the mentally tougher team? Can you be the mentally sharper team late in the game? And they passed that test with flying colors tonight. So they out-executed Denver, which had been, I mean, that had been their Achilles heel against Denver the last few years. Any close game basically went Denver's way. So LA, I know, like, different rosters, different teams. So sort of speaking in generalities here, like, it's not, I mean, LeBron was on the team, Austin was on the team. Like, some guys were on those 2023 and 2024 teams, about almost half the players, but still it's no Luka, no DA, no Marcus, etc. Like, those guys all made real differences tonight. The Enigma, thank you for the super chat. Credit to Smart for a great game and DA for being good, especially in OT. This team has done the impossible. They've gotten me to believe again. Yeah, I mean, look, I think this was the first time I like they started to get me to believe again with the Knicks and Timberwolves wins in terms of like getting the optimism up and being like, this is a possibility. But as I said, coming off of the Bulls game, like this was the game to me that was going to be the barometer, the measuring stick game. I said it at the top with my big picture takeaway. I thought this was the biggest test of the season, at least up to this point. And LA passed it. And to me now, when we look at it, it's like, so they won the season series against Denver. They won the season series against Minnesota. They're now going to have an opportunity to win the season series against Houston. They have to go 2-0 against them. I think it's going to be tough to beat Houston twice in Houston. So if they split it, Houston wins the season series 2-1 because they only play them 3 times. But if they could somehow pull off the improbable and beat Houston twice in Houston and win that season series, now you have the tiebreaker locked up against all 3 of those teams who really right now, those are the 4 teams jockeying for 3 through 6 in the West. Phoenix has an outside chance. I don't really see that, but you have to at least mention them. But those are the teams they're jockeying with 3 through 6. And if they have the head-to-head tiebreaker, plus they have the 3-way tiebreaker because 3-way ties automatically go to the division. If there's a division leader in there, they automatically win. So Denver's not going to be the division leader. Minnesota, Houston, they're not winning their divisions. So LA, if there's any sort of 3-way tie, they automatically win it because they're the Pacific division leader right now. And so there's a scenario here where if they beat Houston twice, they have just the tiebreaker straight up with all those teams. Like they don't have it with Phoenix, and that throws a wrench in it if they somehow tie Phoenix, which I don't see happening. But like that would give them a lot of like that would be a big step in them potentially at least being the 4 seed, if not the 3 seed. But then also, if they somehow do that, then you also have a baseline level of confidence going into Denver. You went 2-1, Minnesota, you went 3-0, and Houston, potentially 2-1. And I think we got to add a little bit of context to it. Like one Minnesota game, no Ant on one side, no Luka and LeBron on one side. So I kind of throw that one out. But like the 2 closer to full strength matchups, LA won both of those convincingly. So technically they're 3-0 against Minnesota. I consider it more 2-0. Then Denver, they won 2-1. One game, there was no Jokic. I think also no LeBron. So really like the 2 like full strength matchups are closer to full strength. They're 1-1, but still like I they could have won that second one, the one in Denver. They nearly made the comeback and won that game. So you got to feel confident with them going into the first round now in a way that we were not feeling that way as recently as a week ago, but definitely before the New York game. But they just had not shown they could beat this caliber of opponent at all. Like they had lost 12 of 13 games against teams 600 and above going into this recent stretch. So they've now won 3 in a row. They have restored order. They're 7-12 against teams 600 and above. And I think if they can go kick some ass on this road trip and go like 4-2 and beat Houston, beat Orlando and Miami, who are both playing great basketball. Like this trip has gotten a lot tougher than what it looked like a few weeks ago. Orlando's playing great. Miami's playing great. Detroit is going to be a big one. Like if they could somehow go 2-1 against Detroit in the 2 Houston games, I think that's a really successful trip, regardless of like the rest of the games. But there's some winnable games here. Orlando, Miami, Indiana, they should go at least 2-1, if not 3-0 against those 3. And then we'll see what they could do against Houston and Detroit. But yeah, things are trending up. And like, I think there's some real optimism for them to at least, I think definitely have a competitive first round series, but to potentially win a first round series and then get to that next level. And depending on where they're at in the standings, I think OKC would be a really tough second round matchup. But San Antonio, like they're unproven. They've yet to win a playoff series. They do have a very high ceiling. They've been a great team and have really come into form after like the first month of the season. But Lakers would have the experience advantage. And I think that would be an interesting second round series. And NBA Enjoyer, thank you for the super chat. Playoff LeBron is him. I felt he's been a top 4 to 6 playoff player last few years. 41-year-old LeBron has aged. He will be a top blank playoff player this year. Well, I mean, playoff LeBron, it goes without saying. I mean, I've stated my LeBron where I think he's at in terms of all-time rank and all that stuff. But I mean, regardless of your LeBron feelings, he's at a minimum. I mean, he's basically number one in like most playoff categories at this point. So I think he's like at a minimum a top 3 playoff performer of all time, and that's low. Like, it's being generous to the field. You can make a strong case for LeBron as the best overall playoff performer, or again, top 2, whatever. I mean, it's tough to say. In general, I think I would put. I would put Luka, Shea, and Jokic ahead of him for sure. I think those are the 3 best players in the NBA right now. Then there's some kind of wild card, like less proven guys, like a Cade Cunningham. Like, he's having Cade and Wemby are like kind of 2 wild cards there, where we just don't, like, we've seen Cade in 1 playoff series, we've seen Wemby in 0 playoff series. So I just don't know how to weigh those guys. There's Ant, but then there's some like established guys, I would say, like Ant, Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson, Tatum and Brown, depending on where Tatum's at a month from now. So I don't. I mean, I think if I'll say this, I think if LeBron is a top 10 playoff player this year, that means the Lakers are at. I mean, that's Lakers like winning at least a round, if not a couple rounds, if he's at that level. Because obviously he's not been a top 10 player this season in like the regular season. So if he's somehow at that level, we'll see. Like, I'm not going to doubt playoff LeBron. I agree with you. He finished 6th in MVP voting, 6th in All NBA last year. And then I thought like rose up to an even higher level in the playoffs for several of those games, right? I think about that, game 3 and game 4, he had a couple big performances on the road in Minnesota. Was a big part of LA's lone win in game 2. Game 1 and game 5 weren't great, but that also applies to like the whole team. They got blown out in both of those games, or most of the team. But I mean, I don't know. I don't, to be honest, like, I don't have a lot of confidence in predicting where LeBron is going to be, but I will know that wherever you want to put him in the regular season, I do have more confidence that wherever that's at, I think LeBron will be at a higher level in the playoffs. Now, I would argue we have not seen, like, I mean, last year he got some top 5 MVP votes, he got some first All NBA votes. I don't think he has been back to like the highs this year have not been as high as last year's highs, but again, wherever you want to put him in the current hierarchy, I'm confident he'll be higher than that come playoff time. Savage, thank you for the super chat. Need this AR in the playoffs minus the turnovers, and AG got to be one of the greatest role players of all time. Because Jesus, I was like, on the one hand, there's part of me that was like, the Lakers kind of got lucky. Jamal Murray 1 for 14. He usually has a magnet ball against the Lakers. He's a mix of Steph Curry and Kyrie Irving and Michael Jordan and Kobe. And he's just like the greatest player ever when he plays the Lakers. But then I was like, looking at the rest of it, THJ and Bruce Brown and Aaron Gordon, and like they were hitting some contested quarter threes that, it was just like, okay, well, maybe it balanced out a little bit there with like everybody else turned into Jamal Murray, and then Jamal Murray just had a rough shooting performance. But yeah, I mean, Aaron Gordon, to me, he's on the short list for best third option in the league. I think I'm maybe going to overshare here, but I am an absolute crazy basketball sicko. So I will, I've talked about, like, I don't have the best sleep schedule. I'm not a good sleeper. So one of the things I'm constantly doing before bed is like, I'm constantly like making lists and ranking things, and it's always NBA things. So I'll go through like, who are the top 10 centers in the league right now? Who are the top 10 power forwards? Who are the best third options? Who I'll rank players 1 to 50, 1 to 100, whatever. And Aaron Gordon, I'm always like, he's like, I feel like higher on the list than like people would think based on just like him kind of being a third guy and not really being an all, like I think he's firmly a top 50 player. And I think you could argue him as high as being a top 40 player. Like I think he's that special as a number 3. And I think he's, because it's not just the offense, it's the defense too. And he could guard essentially 1 through 5 or 2 through 5. He's just a monster. But yeah, AR, I think he was not perfect tonight, and the turnovers like got to be better with the reads there and can't be as careless with the ball. But I think he more than made up for it with his fourth quarter scoring, with the play that tied the game, sent it to OT. Austin was awesome tonight, and 32, 7 and 6, nothing to scoff at, sneeze at. Like he was great tonight. Ryan Lucas, thank you for the super chat. The version of AR you don't trade for Giannis. I agree. And look, like now, Austin has, we were talking about, like, it was kind of a critical juncture of the season for Austin. And he had a month there coming back from injury where from returning February 3rd up until March 6th. So that was over a month and 3 days. He had 2 20-point games over that span of about 15 games. So he had this extended stretch of over a month where he just was not himself offensively, partly due to usage, but also due to efficiency. He had a game against the Pelicans going 4 for 15, Sacramento 3 for 9, Orlando 6 for 16, Boston 4 for 10. Like, he was just not himself, right? In that second half against OKC. But these last few games, starting with that Indiana game, he put it together in the second half. Then the New York game, Minnesota, Chicago, Denver, 3 straight 30-point games for AR, 4 straight games, 25 plus. He's been 50+% shooting in all 4 games. Last couple games, 57+% shooting. So he's been efficient. He has been ramping up the volume, ramping up the usage. And he's also been playmaking at a higher level, because one of the things in that stretch that I just mentioned of 15 games, he only had 5 games out of the 15 with 5 or more assists. So it wasn't just the usage had ramped down and the scoring had ramped down. He wasn't playmaking at the same level. These last 4 games, 5+ assists in all of them and 6+ assists in 3 of them, including 8 against Minnesota, 7 against Chicago. So Austin's been ascending at the same time the Lakers are ascending. I think he's been a huge part of this win streak. He's been a huge part of their success against, particularly in the New York, Minnesota, and Denver games, being the number 2 to Luka. He's been awesome in that role. And I think this is the version of Austin. You do not trade for Giannis. You do not trade for Walker Kessler. Now, he has to sustain this the rest of the regular season. He has to sustain this into the playoffs. And assuming he can do that, which I believe he can, then that's the version of Austin that's going to get the bag this summer and be the number 2 or 3, depending on how the Lakers structure their roster next to Luka moving forward. The Enigma, thank you for the super chat. Jamal Murray missing shot after shot and fouling out of a game against the Lakers healed something deep inside of my soul. Yes, so a lot of Laker fans had some trauma healed tonight with the Jamal Murray performance. It was like all of the shots he has made against the Lakers, there was real regression to the mean tonight, right? Now we'll see if the Lakers end up matching up with Denver in the playoffs, or next season maybe he'll go back to just being an absolute Lakers killer. He's been one of the Lakers killers over the last few years, but it was. I think it was good for the cleansing of the soul, the healing of the soul for a lot of Lakers fans tonight. Sarah talks ball. Shout out to Sarah. Electric crowd, loud and rowdy should be the norm. And thank you for the super chat. I agree. And again, I think the crowd has gotten there's just like a sort of like a stigma with LA fans and LA crowds, right? And they get labeled with the late arriving and like not as engaged and stuff. But I've been to plenty of, I've been going to Lakers games since 2002. I've been going to Lakers games consistently in terms of being a credentialed media member since 2011. And when the crowd is on, and they can compete with anybody in the league in terms of how loud they are. I mean, we could argue at times there's not been a lot to cheer recently with some, like they haven't had the best home record. They've been trending in the right direction at home, but like, they've had some tough home losses this season. But I think the crowd was great today, and they definitely deserve their flowers, and I think they made a real impact. Next one from Double, thank you for the super chat. Cody from Thinking Basketball last month made an argument for Jamal over Luka offensively because of Luka's lack of doing the little things. Your thoughts? I mean, I respect Thinking Basketball. It is one of the smartest podcasts and YouTube channels out there. So I respect Ben. I respect Cody. I would vehemently disagree with this. And I think Jamal's underrated. And, I mentioned my lists. I think Jamal is a top 20 player. And I think Jamal is even in that top, like kind of borderline top 15 conversation. But he's not Luka. And, I know people will get on Luka for some of the efficiency stuff, whatever, but Luka, there's not a single thing Luka can't do offensively. He is a 3-level scorer at the highest level, and then can also pass and play make out of the pick and roll, in the post, skip passes. Like he's got every pass in his arsenal. He's got every shot in his arsenal. He doesn't have an offensive weakness. You can quibble with sometimes the shot selection. I think that's really the only thing offensively. I get it. If you're like just purely arguing like efficiency, that there's all, you could debate the efficiency, but like, I also think Luka does a lot more of the little things offensively than people give him credit for. And I think he has embraced, his usage has gone down, and it's been more, I think, trying to empower AR recently, and also reintegrating LeBron. So I think he does more. He's not just a high volume pick and roll player. I know that's like the perception or the reputation, but he does a lot more than that. And I think his off ball work, he's really improved. Like wouldn't even say improved, because it's more a regression in terms of his step back threes, his pull up threes, his catch and shoot threes are night and day to where they were in like December, right? Like he's really transformed. Just his shooting has changed the Lakers offense. Yeah. So I think Jamal Murray is great, to be clear. Like I think he's, when he's on, he's one of the best players in the league, but he's not Luka. Chris, thank you for the super chat. Seen Cuban's comments on Adam Freeland's show, said he regrets the sale. Nico's an idiot that threw away decades of work in the worst trade. I had not seen that, but I'm not surprised by that. It's no secret that Mark Cuban and Nico Harrison had their tension and beef and didn't see eye to eye. And that was partly why Cuban was pushed away recently with some of the basketball decision-making and stuff. We'll never know his, knowledge and involvement in the Luka trade. I think everybody associated with the Mavericks immediately tried to take a step back and claim they had no knowledge or involvement in the trade. I don't fully buy that. I think Jason Kidd is another one who was more involved in that trade than maybe has been led on. But the buck stops with Nico. Nico was the one who concocted this brilliant decision and decided to execute it and keep it a secret to some degree. Again, we don't know the full degree, but to some degree it was a secret. And who knows? I know Mavericks fans have the fantasy of Luka returning to Dallas. But yeah, I'm not surprised by Cuban saying that. Peter, thank you for the super chat. Tier 1 now, OKC, San Antonio, Detroit, Boston, Denver, definitely out, even though tonight missing P-Watt. If Denver stays 6, should LA try to avoid full strength Denver? So I still have, just, I'm not really changing my Denver opinion off of tonight. I think Denver versus San Antonio is a real conversation for 2 versus 3 in terms of who's the 2 versus 3 after OKC. I still have Denver ahead of Detroit and Boston. I think if they played in a 7-game series, I would pick Denver over either one of those teams. Now, San Antonio might be ascending to a level where maybe Denver can't beat them. I mean, they just had a close game, a big comeback. They were down 16 at the half, second out of a back-to-back in San Antonio, no Wemby. Denver made a big comeback, but I mean, you could argue maybe San Antonio just has the second highest ceiling. I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that, but I'm not dropping Denver. I know this is your rankings. I'm just sharing my counterpoint thoughts. And I do think for those who've watched Denver throughout the season, I think Peyton Watson is clearly their 4th best player and is a big part of both their offense and their defense. He's their most athletic defender. And I think if you throw out a lineup with him, Brown, and Gordon, that's just an incredible 2 through 4 defensively. So I as long as Peyton Watson can get healthy and he's supposed to potentially be back next week, I think Denver will be in a good spot just in terms of their playoff viability, but they're going to be probably the 5 or 6 seed, and that's going to be an uphill battle to win a series starting out on the road. As for the last part, this reminds me of back in 2024, there was the Lakers in the play-in mix, and there was the question of, do you try to be the 7th seed and face Denver based on because remember that season, they just lost to Denver 4-1. And then if I'm not mistaken, they got swept in the regular season by Denver, right? There was that stretch there where Denver had won all these games against them. No, excuse me. I mean, they got swept in the playoffs. And then I think they had lost the season series. I'm going to pull it up here. Looking up Lakers versus Denver. Yeah, they lost. Yeah, they lost all 3 games in the season series. So they had lost 7 in a row against Denver going into round 1, and they end up losing round 1 4-1. And there had been this notion of does LA tank in the play-in to avoid Denver? And everyone wanted OKC, who was the 1 seed, and they were unproven. And it was take your chance against OKC, avoid Denver. It's a bad matchup. I understand that line of thinking. I believe in the basketball gods. That is the religion that I adhere to. And I believe you do not disrupt the basketball gods. You do not offend the basketball gods. And you play to win. You do not tank into a certain matchup. Now, I think Denver would be the toughest matchup for LA among Denver, Minnesota, and Houston. I think they're the best of those teams. I mean, they've clearly played LA tougher than Minnesota has this season, but I also just think, they just played Houston and beat them by they were up by 30 points for most of the second half. I just think they're better than Houston. I think they're better than Minnesota. I think that would be a much tougher first round opponent for LA. However, another subplot to this is that if you stay in the 3-6 and just say, hey, we're taking on Denver, you also avoid OKC in round 2. And I think that's the bigger one for me, where Lakers will have a couple more cracks at OKC down the stretch of the regular season. But right now, that is still the team that concerns me the most for a couple reasons. One, they're just really, really good. They're the defending champs. They're the best team in the league right now. And so there's just the talent, skill, depth perspective with OKC, where even if they're not at full strength, I mean, we just saw OKC without, in my opinion, 4 of their 6 best players play Denver, who was at full strength other than Peyton Watson. And that was a close game that OKC ultimately won. So OKC, they're the Hydra that you can keep cutting their heads off. It doesn't matter. As long as they have their top 12 players, 7 of their 12, they're going to be really difficult to beat. But then the second part of this is I also think OKC, if you just look at the teams that the Lakers have struggled with this season, it has been those teams that can switch across multiple positions, that can pressure the ball, that can stay in that deep drop. And OKC checks all those boxes. So I also think there's a matchup component of, I think they can of any team in the league, they can probably get away with guarding Luka and Austin and LeBron in one-on-ones, not have to double, not send a certain amount of help, and they can pretty much live with that. And then on the other side, if LA is going to be doubling Shea, like they don't have a great matchup for Shea, but then if they're doubling him, OKC's gotten much better at those 4-on-3s. They've gotten much better at exploit. Like we saw that in the Denver game. They just picked Denver apart. And I think there'd be an element of that with LA as well. So I think OKC, I mean, if you're going to avoid anyone, I think OKC is the team you want to avoid, which means avoiding the 4-5. However, I don't think you upset the basketball gods. And I think you have to try to win every single game and be the best seed possible. And if that's the 3 seed and you play Denver in round 1, that's the 3 seed, you play Denver round 1. That's my take on that. Gary Singh, thank you for the super chat. Lakers schedule is tough. Denver remaining schedule is easy. We'll be favored in every game. Seeding is tricky. Hard to avoid 4-5 spot OKC bracket. And look, the Lakers, I mean, I do believe that winning a championship fundamentally changes a team, and OKC is returning essentially the same exact roster and rotation as last season, with a notable upgrade in AJ Mitchell, who is their 4th best offensive player and is really like, I think he's probably a future all-star. Like he's just a stud off the bench. And we saw him run the show against Denver and destroy them in pockets of that game. So, I mean, OKC is just, they're going to be tough to beat. But if you go back to last year, Lakers had a statement win in OKC, blew them out, had a second matchup where they pushed it. They were up, and then Luka got egregiously ejected from that game, and that was a technical that ultimately was rescinded. Now, I think some people have held on to that game as like proof of concept that the Lakers can beat OKC. I would not go that far. I think OKC would be a heavy, heavy favorite over the Lakers, but there is something to the way that they played in those games. Now, again, I think winning a championship changes a group to the point of like, I don't think comparing OKC in March 2025 is the same as OKC in April or May 2026. I think they've gone through the fire. They passed the tests of winning multiple rounds, beating Denver, beating Indiana, surviving a couple 7-game series. Like they got some hair on their chest, or in my case, a little stubble on the face. Like they've gone through the fire. So I think there is something different. I also think they're just, several of their guys are playing better than they were back then. AJ Mitchell spawned out of nowhere and is just this stud off the bench. Like they're going to be a tough team. I say all that to say, though, again, like you play the schedule out. LA does have a tough schedule, but that's also why like they've done their work early. They've built up some cushion here. They won the season series with Minnesota. They won the season series with Denver. They have a shot to win the season series with Houston. That's all you can do. You just play the next game. You play the game in front of you. But if they're in the 4-5, they're in the 4-5. And they're going to be in a dogfight in round 1 and then face OKC round 2. So if that's the case, so be it. Colby, thank you for the super chat. Unrelated to the game, but who would be your pick for best picture, best actress, and best actor for tomorrow? Well, I've been trying to like not ignite the chat and have arguments going off with certain things, but let's. I'm gonna pull up. So I'm the only ones I typically pay attention to, or this year I've been paying attention to best actor, just because I love a lot of, like, several of the best actor nominees are my favorite. Like Leo is my favorite actor of all time. So, but I would say best actor is tough. I know Timothée Chalamet has been the heavy favorite, and he kind of spoiled it with some of his recent comments about the opera and ballet and whatnot. It's kind of been a funny story to see unfold. I also really like Michael B. Jordan. I think he did a great job playing twins and Sinners. I think Leo is being slept on a little bit. He was more in the mix a few months ago and then has kind of dropped in the race. I think Timothy carries Marty Supreme, but it's not, I don't know. I don't think he should be as heavy of a favorite as he was. I think it's kind of balanced out now, but I guess I would I understand leaning Timothy, but I think any one of those three to me is I'm not going to have any qualms with them winning. I think Timothy carries that movie more than like Michael B. Like that's more of an ensemble cast to like they're obviously the stars and carrying it to a degree, but like I think there's other like really great performances where in Marty Supreme, I think it's like really Timothy Chalamet shining in comparison to everybody else. But I also think Leo deserves a real shot. I think Best Picture's one battle after another. I think that was my favorite movie and the best movie I saw this year. And for Best Actress, I'm actually going to, I believe Jessie Buckley is the heavy favorite. And I would have, I've not seen Hamnet, so I can't really speak to that, but I will, like, if she's the heavy favorite, she's the heavy favorite for a reason. I do want to give a shout out to, I thought Emma Stone was great in Begonia. And that was a really interesting and weird role to play, but I thought she played it well. So I guess Jessie Buckley is the consensus pick on Best Actress. I haven't seen all of the movies that and all the actresses' performances up for Best Actress, so I can't speak to that one as confidently. But I would say for Best Actor and maybe you split it with like Timothy gets his Best Actor, and then one battle after another gets Best Picture. But I think Sinners deserves a lot of love as well. So it's tough. I think this is a really crowded year, and there's going to be some heartbreak, and but I also think there's going to be some other categories that Sinners potentially wins. So we'll see. But those are three of my favorite movies. Sarah Talks Ball, thank you for the super chat. Good body language tonight, vast improvement on that front. To quote Goran Dragic, why you put your heads down, put your heads up and play. Yeah, I mean, I thought good body language from LA tonight. There were some moments there where, in the middle of the game, you could tell there was some frustration with like how the game was going, but everybody kept their composure, that there was a level of resolve and togetherness. And I think that's been one of the big things was like, there have been times this season when the Lakers have seemingly seemed like they're splintering or fracturing or kind of going in different directions. And I forgot, I'm blanking on who said it. Someone said it, I think on X, but I could kind of understand where they're coming from, where it, sometimes it felt like it was like 15 guys just coming to clock in, do their job, and then kind of go in their separate directions. I think part of that's like, it's a quiet group. I've made this point, even go back to last year, where it's not like, I've been in locker rooms where it's very loud and there's like a certain team-wide personality. And like, this is more of a group where I think everybody, like, there's a lot of close relationships you just look at Luka and AR and their dynamic. And there's other guys, Marcus and DA have a great dynamic. Vando is beloved by everybody. Rui's beloved by everybody. LeBron is LeBron. Like, everybody looks up to LeBron. Like there's these like dynamics within the locker room, right? But by nature, I think it's a little bit more of a quiet group. There's not, you have your personalities in Marcus and DA, and like LeBron's going to be vocal a certain amount. I think Luka and AR have stepped into more vocal roles this year, but it's not like natural necessarily to either one of those guys. Like I think Luka and Austin are both more like lead by example guys than do this, do that. But Luka, it started over the summer with him and the Slovenian team, and it's carried over into this season. But yeah, I mean, I think I also big shout out to JJ and the coaching staff, I think, for like managing that locker room and keeping everybody. Because again, one of the big things, and like JJ's talked about this a couple times this season, is over half the group is playing for a contract. So by nature, that's going to it's great when you're winning, and it's great to sacrifice and this and that, and like, cool, you're winning. But when you're losing, all of a sudden it becomes, guys stop wanting to sacrifice, guys start pointing the fingers, guys can go in different directions. And like, even if that has felt like it's happening a couple times this season, they've been able to rally the troops and keep everybody on the same page. Angel, thank you for the super chat. The crowd was electrifying. The game was a thriller, and the Lakers felt like the Lakers worth every cent I paid to attend. All you in attendance, just great game. I can say, like, again, best game I've been to this season, covering the Lakers. And it was just a lot of fun. Like, to your point, it felt like a Lakers game. It felt like a weekend Lakers game because there's obviously the vibes are a bit different on the weekend, with just people could drink more, get a little rowdier, and it's just a little bit more electric and animated. So yeah, great crowd. Zach Wan, thank you for the super chat. Okay, stretch from DA. Okay, stretch from DA, but Claxton takes LA into next level, in my opinion. Which of the two of Rui, Watson, and Eason should be the starter next year with Luka and AR? So, I mean, I'm to this point, I think DA for me has obviously been playing much better. I think the overtime fourth quarter stretch kind of saved his game. I'm taking notes during the game and mentally preparing what I was going to say. And I thought he was like fine defensively through that first three quarters, but I thought the force that he played with against New York, Minnesota, and Chicago was not there. And it felt like he was shrinking a little bit from the moment and just like not, again, like he's getting, I mean, he was blocked and stripped 3 times and missed a point blank shot. And it was just like, and then he was missing free throws, and it just felt like he was kind of like the game was slipping away from him. And you saw JJ respond by cutting his minutes. He only played 10 minutes in the first half. I think was at 21 going into that final stretch or so, 21 or 22. So like he was having a game where his minutes were cut, and he was not originally going to close up until like they situationally closed with him with the free throws to try and get an offensive rebound. But if the game ends, like he would have played 21, 22 minutes, and like we're talking about a different situation here. But JJ went to him to close in OT, and as I said, he was brilliant in OT. So I think he is in general like earning more trust and confidence. I still don't think he's the long-term answer. I think he would need to bottle up these last, let's just say 4 games and play that way every single game or every single like notable game the rest of the way and through the playoffs. If he does that, different conversation. We'll talk about it. Then he'll opt out and get more money. If not, he's probably opting in, and then the Lakers have to figure out what they're going to do with his contract. So I do agree that Claxton, I know some people don't like the size or the physicality, whatnot. I understand that. But whether it's a Claxton or a Kessler or just a higher level center, I think that's still the ultimate long-term best play for LA. Among these 3 players, well, I think Watson is in his own tier. But in terms of if you're asking me to predict, I think if we're ranking the players in terms of how good they are, I think it's Watson, Eason, Rui. I also think that's going to correlate to their contracts. I think Watson is easily going to get 20 plus, if not 25 plus. I think Eason is going to be somewhere between high teens and low 20s. I think Rui is probably going to be somewhere in the mid to high teens, potentially even just the non-taxpayer MLE from somebody in that like 15, 16 range. So I think there's a clear hierarchy among those 3. So by that process, I would go Watson and Eason. We'll see if the Lakers can pull off both of those guys. And if you're, let's just say combine like 45 million, that's a big chunk of your somewhere between 48 to 57 million in cap space. That's almost all of it. And that's before factoring in what they're doing with like, if they're rescinding some rights and trying to keep some guys. And like, there's a lot of different ways it could play out. But my preference would be Watson, Eason, then Rui in that order. Mainly because, I mean, Eason's been a 40+% three-point, like his shot. I don't fully trust his shot, but he's been a 40+% three-point shooter this year. And he's like an all defense level guy. And then Watson's also a stud defender. So I ultimately think like those 2 guys are both 2-way guys. Rui's a 1-way guy. And he has some utility, I think, in some of these matchups where he can guard a big, but the Lakers need wing defenders and they need 2-way wings. And I think Watson and Eason are in a different class. So I would say those are the 2 guys there. Damian, thank you for the super chat. Good morning, Jovan. What team is your best matchup for LA in the first round? And let's keep winning so the mustache game gets epic. So one quick note on the mustache. you guys can't tell because this is just how I this is my mustache, but I did shave it this morning. So I apologize. I know on Lakers Collective, I said I was not going to shave it until after the Lakers lost the game, but the Lakers might not lose the game for a long time. And I didn't want to look ridiculous. I'm doing TV on Monday. I'm doing the herd. So I wanted to clean up. Now I'll probably shave one more time before then, TMI. But best matchup for me, I think it's Houston. Now I'm leaving some room for adjusting my opinion based on how these matchups go on Monday and Wednesday. I'm a big believer in I change my mind all the time. So I don't want to be I believe some people in sports have an opinion and they're committed to it and they're going to die on that hill. I like to think that I have a pretty open mind and I'm willing to adapt. And with more information, new information, I'm going to change my opinion. So for right now, I think Houston is the third best team of those three teams. But we're talking about Denver, Minnesota, and Houston. They also are the least proven of those three teams. Minnesota has made back-to-back conference finals. They just whooped the Lakers last year in 5. Denver has won a championship. They just had a really competitive series with OKC. Those have always been close games going back to last season. So I just think Denver's at a certain level. I think Minnesota has a certain upside. Houston's the one that they've been treading in the wrong direction for quite a while. I think they really miss Fred VanVleet and Steven Adams. And there's the whole KD burner situation, which they haven't been great since that either. Although I think their downward trajectory was happening before that, but they've had a lot of bad close losses. I think their crunch time offense is the least reliable of those three. So they have some physical advantages over LA. You look at Amen Thompson, Jabari Smith, KD, Tari Eason. They've got some wings. They've got some athleticism. They got some defense, some toughness. So I'm not saying it would be an easy matchup. I don't think any of those I think all three of those series probably go 6 games on either side. Regardless of who wins, I think those are probably 6 or 7 game series. I think it's going to be a real dogfight in round 1. But of those three, the team I have the least confidence in is easily Houston. Now, there could be something to the physical matchup of Houston is more athletic than the Lakers, especially on that Christmas game. They were tougher and more physical, and they dictated the terms of engagement. So if they do that again in Houston, I would pivot then to Minnesota being the easiest matchup. But I think based on the bigger picture of the season, I think Houston's the worst, the worst team of those three, and I think Houston would be my preference for round 1. Andrew H, thank you for the super chat. Love Marcus, but it seems like he's going to opt out. I agree. Marcus Smart, I think is on the books for 5.3, 5.4 million next year. He's better than that. I think Marcus, I think he's produced at a $12 to $15 million a year player level. I think if there was no concerns about his age or his injury history, I think he's a guy that could easily opt out, and some team's going to throw the non-taxpayer MLE at him and pay him. I wouldn't be surprised at a 3-year 45, or 2-year 30, 3-year 45 deal in terms of 14, 15 million a year. I think he's been at that level. Now, maybe he gives the Lakers a bit of a discount and he's a little bit cheaper, but I think he's a double-digit million guy. And now, maybe with the injuries and just his age, he's in his early 30s, that number ends up being closer to 10 to 12 million, but he's easily a double-digit million guy. I don't think there's any I think he's undeniably been the Lakers' 4th best player this year. So unless you want to argue, I'm not saying you, but just the proverbial you want to argue that the Lakers don't have a 4th player worthy of making double-digit millions, which I know some people will argue that, and there is some credence to that. But for example, if Rui's going to get 15 million, I don't see why Marcus shouldn't get 15 million. I think Marcus is a better player. I think he's a more scalable player I think he's more of a 16-game player. I just think he's better. So I understand Rui's younger and maybe in a different role on a different team, he could be more impactful than the current situation. But Marcus has been awesome. Rando, thank you for the super chat. Feels like Denver has become our biggest rival these past 6 years. Huge win and shout out Late Night Gang. Let's go, baby. Buha, Buha. Yeah, I agree. I think you mentioned 6 years, so you go back to the bubble in the Western Conference Finals. LA wins that. 80 shot Dwight going full Batman mode against the Joker, and then 2023, 2024. Some of the regular season matchups they've had, some of the trash talking that has happened between the two sides. I would say if we're just going off of, like, there will always be the Celtics as a rival. There will always be the Clippers just based on, just based on the sharing the same city. But Denver, in terms of like bad blood and high stakes matchups, I don't think there's anyone close to Denver in terms of LA, rivals. So yeah, it's become a real rivalry over the last few years, and like that's how rivalries are born. That they happen in the playoffs, and I think every time they play each other, it's must see TV. Trucker Star, thank you for the super chat. Imagine how a guy like Wiggins or Robert Williams would be now going into the postseason. This is exactly why we wanted a significant trade. Yes, you're preaching to the choir. This is why I wanted the Lakers to make a big trade. This is why I was on this going back to the offseason. I was on this all season. I said they should invest in this team. I said they should make some sort of notable trade. I think Luke Kennard has been a significant improvement over Gabe Vincent, but like ultimately, as I said earlier in the show, I think Luke Kennard is a 15 to 18 minute a night playoff guy. He's a bench guy that's like not at the level that I was talking about. I was talking about a starter and ideally someone better than Marcus. So yeah, it becomes a bit of a what if here, but Lakers have the players they have. They got to ride it out, and they're trending in the right direction. So we'll see how far they can go. Kevin, thank you for the super chat. Hello, Mr. Buha. This is our team's first super chat. Great game. Does Luka have a reputation before being a Laker for making clutch plays? Also, our dad said we were allowed to cuss after a win like that. LFG. All right. So this is the middle school basketball team that is tuning in. Shout out to you guys. I don't know your team name, but shout out to whatever your team name is. And shout out to Kevin here. Appreciate this being your first super chat. It's 11:50. It's a little late for you guys, but you know what? I'm one to talk because I was routinely going to bed after midnight. So shout out to your parents. But yeah, Luka has a reputation for being, before being a Laker, making clutch plays. Like, I mean, I covered that Dallas Clippers series, bubble series, and I believe that was game 2 where he hit the game winner over Reggie Jackson. And he has hit several big playoff shots before. He's had several game winners in game, go ahead game sealing shots. So yeah, I mean, there was a stat circulating about Luka's usage in the fourth, Luka's usage in the clutch from earlier in the season, and like the Lakers have been an interesting clutch team, and this is partly why they haven't had an overtime game, is because a lot of their clutch games have like. They've had a lot of games where it's like because clutch is at any point in the final 5 minutes, it's within 5 points. So if you're up 6 with 5:01 left, and then it hits the 5 minute mark, a team scores, now it's a 4-point game, that immediately becomes a clutch game, regardless of how the rest of the game plays out. But the Lakers have had a lot of these clutch games where it's sort of like a borderline clutch game, but the team cuts it to 5 or less within that 5 minutes, but then the Lakers prevail. And then anything that's above the 5 is not counted in the clutch statistics. So like the Lakers have been weird because they have a bunch of clutch wins. They have a great clutch record. But if you actually look at the minutes and the games, they've been on the lower end. I could pull it up here on NBA.com. Let's see if it's updated. In terms of win percentage, Lakers are number 1 in the league. They're 18-6 in clutch games. But if we go by games played, they have played the second fewest clutch games behind only Washington has played fewer. And then overall minutes, if we go by total, Lakers are last in the league in clutch minutes at 73. So that I think has skewed some of Luka's clutch stuff and some of his clutch production And also with the way that Luka attacks games, he attacks games early. There's a reason why he's the leader in first quarter scoring. And I think he likes to go on the attack and then have the defense counter and adjust to him. And then he picks teams apart. So that's why you'll see more second half assists, more assists in the third quarter, fourth quarter. But yeah, Luka, no concerns with Luka in the clutch, or like there was the Orlando game, but I don't, that was not even entirely his fault, but like that was a rarity. And I think Luka is clutch, and Lakers were overdue for an overtime game. They were overdue for a game winner, and Luka delivered. Bosnian Bear, thank you for the super chat. Hey, Brate, shouldn't we be getting the ball more to the best shooter in the league, Kennard, considering we have 2 of the 3 best passers in the game? Yes. I mean, this has been something I've not understood about the Lakers offense. Like why, I mean, I would throw Rui in there too, of they just have not been able to generate a lot of high volume looks for Rui or Luke Kennard. So yeah, I mean, I think it's something they got to figure out. Now, I think part of this is like Luke is sometimes a decoy because of how teams defend him, that they just leverage his gravity, and it becomes more of a, okay, if Luke is on the weak side in the corner or weak side wing, we could run him off in action, and like someone's going to be someone's glued to him at all times, right? Like he got an open 3 in the corner tonight, and that was a bad mistake from Denver, but like he'll get a couple of those a game, but for the most part, like Luke is going to be covered, and the Lakers have countered that a couple ways of just leverage that gravity and use that as a way to get an extra defender out there of, okay, if you're going to take out Luke, we're going to make this basically a 4-on-4 and use part of the court. And then depending on what action we're running, we could attack that. And you just have like one fewer defender to help out. But then they also have leveraged it with Luke attacking closeouts. And because teams will panic and freak out and try to run him off the line, then he's able to put the ball on the ground. And we've seen he's been able to do a lot of good things. He can finish with either hand. He's a good passer. He triggers the blender for the Lakers. So with Luke, I think in general, they need to do a better job. Like teams want Marcus shooting. They want Jake shooting. They want Vando shooting. They play the Lakers role players a certain way, and they try to funnel shots to those guys. And those guys have to make the shots. And there's just an element of that, of especially Marcus. If he's going to be starting, if he's going to be playing 30 plus minutes, he's going to be closing. Marcus needs to be shooting at least mid 30s, if not high 30s from 3. But they could also do a better job of finding Kennard and Rui. I would just also, and some of it could be screening, some of it could be actions, but like I just think you rarely see Luke like uncovered, because teams know he is the ultimate laser. And if a team is running the correct game plan and scheme, Luke Kennard's not going to get open, right? Or he's not going to get open outside the arc. He'll get open inside the arc. And he's leveraged out with some back cuts and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think in general, it would be great to get him more looks. And I think it should be a goal that the Lakers aspire to. I think in reality, it's easier said than done, because teams have to allow for him to get open to a degree, right? Or the Lakers can force the action and do certain things, but I think they've also benefited from him being somewhat of a decoy sometimes, and like what that allows for the other side of the floor. But I totally agree, though. I think they could do a better job with both he and Rui. Zachary, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate your work. What's your expectation going into the upcoming road trip? So this is a really difficult road trip, because it was already difficult with Houston twice and Detroit, but Miami and Orlando have been playing great basketball. Like, they're kind of both flying under the radar outside of Bam scoring 83, but Miami just won 7 games in a row. They actually just lost to Orlando today. So Orlando got a big win, but Orlando's won 7 in a row. They've won 9 of 11 overall. Miami had just won 7 in a row. They have won 9 of 12. So they'll have played several more games by the time the Lakers play them. But like both those teams have been playing great basketball lately. Then you add in like Detroit is still the best team in the East. Houston is playing for their seeding. They have one of the, I believe Houston has the easiest remaining schedule of the 4 teams, 3 through 6, or at least did. I don't know, like currently. Like they're playing for the season series themselves. So I've said this before. I think 3-3 or going 500 on the road is always a win. So I would say the goal for LA should be to go at least 3-3. I think like some mini goals here: split the Houston series, split Florida, at least win one of those against Miami and Orlando. It'd be great to beat Detroit, but like I'm not going to pencil that in. And then you should beat Indiana. So I think you split Houston, you split Texas, you split Florida, and you beat one of the Midwest teams. Like that right there is a 3-3 trip. That's successful. I think a real successful trip would be splitting Houston, sweeping Florida, lose to Detroit, and then beat Indiana, and you go 4-2. Of course, if you beat Detroit or Houston twice, like that's a real win on a road trip. But I would say at a minimum, going 3-3, 4-2 would be great in some form or fashion. Really, the only way 3-3, like 2-4 or worse, is disappointing. But I would also say the only way they could go 3-3 and it still be disappointing would be if they lost to Houston twice and Detroit. Like I think they got to win at least one of those 3 games. But if they can split the Houston games and have a competitive showing in Detroit, whether they win or not, that to me continues them trending in the right direction. But I mean, they should beat Miami, they should beat Orlando, they should beat Indiana. So that should be 3 wins. And then if you go 1-2 against Houston and Detroit, that's a 4-2 trip. That's a great trip. So I would say 3-3 at a minimum, but like 4-2 would be a great goal to aspire to. I mean, of course, you want to go 6-0, you want to go 5-1. And if they do that, even better. That would be even more evidence that this team is trending in the right direction and is getting serious going into the postseason. But I'm trying to balance like expectations and reality. 5 of the 6 games they're playing are going to be really, really difficult based on the caliber of opponent, based on how the opponent is currently playing. So I want to have like relatively realistic expectations here. LA just had a home stretch. They took care of business, won all 5 of the home games. They've been actually trending up at home, trending down on the road. They've lost let's see, 1 of 2, 2-2. They're 2-3 in their last 5 road games, so they haven't been as strong lately on the road. But I think 3-3 should be the minimum, and ideally 4-2. That would be a successful road trip, in my opinion. Tama, thank you for the super chat. Would LBJ take a non-MLE Watson for 25-26? McDaniels might get traded in a Giannis trade. Braun, Watson, McDaniels, Eve, Time Lord, and Hayes can be nice. It's really tough to project what LeBron is going to do financially. I mean, we don't even know if he's playing next season. I don't see him going to Chicago or Brooklyn or some of these teams that have max cap space or more than 20 plus million in cap space. So I think it would be, there's the Lakers, there's Cleveland. I know Golden State's been a popular destination. That there's maybe like 3 to 5 teams I could see LeBron realistically, like the team would have interest. He would make some sense there. And there's like a potential pathway to it happening. I don't like, I'd be lying if I said I had great confidence in terms of what his next contract will look like. The only thing I can say is we do know some of the facts in terms of who has cap space and who doesn't. So it's like, if he wants to go to Cleveland, it likely has to be a minimum contract unless Cleveland can move a lot of money around. If he wants to go to New York, maybe it's an exception, but potentially a minimum. Golden State, similar thing. So a lot of the teams that I think would have interest in him and he would potentially have mutual interest in, it's just he's got to take a massive pay cut unless there's a sign-in trade. So maybe there's a sign-in trade and that would benefit the Lakers from the point of like getting something back for losing LeBron. But I don't have great confidence in what LeBron's next contract. Like all I know is, the Lakers can't offer him more than basically every other suitor, and they could offer him actual cap space and salary, and they could offer him $20 million when most of the other teams can't, right? They could offer him $25 million when most of the other teams can't. They could even go above the non-taxpayer MLE and be like, hey, no one, like the cap space teams aren't spending their money on you, and every other team that wants you can spend up to $15 million or minimum. We can outbid them, but like we're not outbidding them by much, right? So just kind of depends on where the dynamic is. I think how the rest of the regular season plays out, how the playoffs play out. There's still some factors that will, and just ultimately what LeBron wants. But I don't think anyone knows what LeBron wants other than LeBron. Anyone saying so is being disingenuous, and I think he's got to figure that out. He likes to take his time after the season, make his decision, and unless he makes an announcement either way in terms of retiring or returning, we just won't know until we know, right? And I think it's going to take some time. But I don't, just to be completely honest, I don't have a great read on whether he's even back, but like next year in the NBA, and then like what that contract looks like. Watson, 25, 26 million. I think that'll be in his market. If the Lakers could get in on Jaden McDaniels, that would be great. I think Minnesota would be giving him up for picks. I don't think they're just going to like get rid of him. I think it would be to get more picks to facilitate in the Giannis trade. So that's just another wrinkle here of LA would likely have to give up at least a couple picks, I would assume, for McDaniels, if not all three of their firsts, but somewhere between 2 and 3, maybe two in a swap or 2 in a second or something, whatever. Although I think LA is technically out of their seconds. It replenishes on draft day. That center by committee, I'm open to it. One concern with those three is like they're all a little light in the back pocket. None of those guys I guess Time Lord's the closest to being more of an enforcer, like physical type, but he's even a little bit more of like the athletic pogo stick type. So you kind of have like three guys who I think would fit great with Luka and AR offensively. I just wonder the collective rebounding and post defense and like interior defense. I think that could be a little bit of a concern with that trio, but I like that trio more than the current center rotation. All right. Back into the chat, going about a few more minutes here. You guys got any final questions? Supply and demand. I'd give AR $28 million and tell him we're going to bomber his contract. Well, just be careful you don't get caught. Nuggets lost the trade. Says Watson is not worth 20 to 25 million. LOL. What do you think Watson is worth? Assuming you're a Nuggets fan. Although actually you look like a MPJ fan, so you might not like anything Nuggets related. Connor Phillips asks, what is my level of belief in the team currently? I'm back up to 12%. Well, what do you mean by level of belief? Like, are we talking like championship equity? Are we talking first round series equity, conference finals equity? I think it's difficult to just put, for me at least, like a blanket number on it. But I think I would say a couple of weeks ago, if you put a metaphorical gun to my head and said, what do you think is, like, you have to bet right now your life on what is the most likely outcome for the Lakers rest of the season, I would have said first round loss. I think the door has not even swung open. I think the Lakers went and kicked the door down, and I think they have a real shot to make the second round. Now they have to show, like, I think, like, I'm of two minds with this, right? Where I think there's a lot of positives to take away from the beginning of the game, how they responded, how they faced adversity and overcame it and won this game in OT, out executed Denver down the stretch. There's also the middle of the game that I don't, but you know, the second part of it is there's the middle of the game where I don't think we can overlook that and be like, I think you could argue, like, I mean, Denver had a pretty impressive stretch there in the middle, and in terms of like it was basically, you know, LA was plus 17 the first part of the game, Denver was plus 24 middle part of the game, LA was plus 9 in that final 8 minutes of the game, final 3 minutes plus OT. So like LA overall won the beginning and the end, but there was a long stretch there where they got their butts kicked by Denver, and certainly some things to build on, sharpen up. So I don't want to say it's all peaches and cream right now. Like there's definitely things. It's peaches and cream in the macro sense of LA's on a 5-game win streak. They're trending up. This was a huge win. Again, best win of the season. I think they continue to stack up best win after best win after best win. Like that's awesome. But I don't want to like completely overlook the underbelly of tonight and like some of the things that didn't go well and some of the stagnation offensively, the lack of transition defense, the turnovers. Like there was a lot in the middle that they need to clean up and be better with, because the margin was this thin where Aaron Gordon makes a free throw down the stretch. Austin, miscalculates the trajectory of that, whatever. They lose this game, and it's like a really disappointing loss of you blew a 17-point lead. You had the game in your grasp for almost a full half. For a full half, and you still lost it, right? So that's the margin of a game. It can be won or lost in a possession, in a moment, in a second, and Lakers won, and that's why there's so much optimism and the vibes are so high. But like, so I just kind of say all that to say, like, in terms of level of belief, I think I'm looking at it like they have a real shot to come out of the first round. I want to see how the rest of the season goes. I want to see who the matchup is. I want to see who's healthy on both sides. Like, there's a lot of context and nuance that goes into it, but I think they have a real shot to at least make round 2. And then I guess following up, Matt asks, with these latest victories, what is the Lakers ceiling now? I mean, ceiling, I think, is probably conference finals. But I would not when we talk ceiling, that's like you're hitting your upside. I think this group has the upside to make the conference finals if they can really continue putting things together and gel and as JJ said, coalesce after the game. I think more like realistic ceiling is probably second round and winning a first round, like being the 3 or 4 seed, winning a first round series against Denver, Minnesota, or Houston, and then losing to San Antonio or OKC in round 2. I will say, unless like things change down the stretch of the season, I think OKC is a terrible matchup for them. I don't think they could beat OKC. I think that would be a pretty decisive win for OKC. So part of my ceiling calculation here is if they run into OKC in round 2, I think they lose in round 2. If they run into OKC in round 3, I think they lose to OKC in round 3. I don't have a lot of confidence currently in the OKC matchup, but could they beat San Antonio? I mean, look, San Antonio's 3-1 against them, but 2 of those losses, the Lakers basically punted with who was available. So it's more 1-1 on the season series. Now, the game the Lakers had the big 3, they got absolutely destroyed and ran off the court in early December against San Antonio. So that's like the closest thing to a full strength matchup, and San Antonio killed them. So Wemby's at a different level than he was at the beginning of the season. Castle, Fox, Harper, all these guys are much better when the Lakers played them earlier on. So San Antonio's rolling right now, and they're beaten. I mean, they beat Boston. They beat Detroit. They beat OKC. I mean, they dominated OKC. They beat everybody. So San Antonio is an interesting one where it's like, are they ready for the moment? We just won't know that until we see what they're like in the playoffs. But I think there's a pathway to the conference finals, but I think more realistically, it's probably winning a first round series and then losing in round 2. Omaris asks if Kawhi becomes a free agent. That's something you have to consider. I think you got to be careful about making a deal with the devil, and don't sell your soul. Just be careful. But I mean, he's been a top 10, if not arguably top 5 player this season. So he's played arguably the best basketball of his career, just straight up, or in that conversation. So it's you would have to consider it. You'd be foolish to not consider it. It's just be careful about the parameters of the situation. Eric says, Jovan, your boy Trevor said he met an alien in Phoenix. How are you going to top that? I have a story of how I crashed a party at Drake's house that too long to tell. It's like a 10-minute story, but one day, one Q&A when we have nothing to talk about, I will tell that story. This ain't that. What's your dream scenario in the offseason? I already talked about this, but I would say, I mean, it's tough. Like, it's tough to say how LeBron factors into all this just because we don't know if he's playing, and I want a larger sample size of just how all this fits and like how much I'd want to pay him next summer. I don't, again, have like a great read on what that is, if he's still playing or if he wants to, like, I don't even know if he wants to be in LA. Like, there's just a lot of unknowns with the whole situation. But ideally, I would say if LeBron is gone, the Lakers need 3 starters. If LeBron stays, the Lakers need 2 starters. And I think a dream scenario would be adding 2 long-term starters. In my opinion, that's at the 5 and the 3. Like, the Lakers need a long-term starting center. They need a long-term 3-and-D type 2-way wing. If they can get those 2 guys, I think that's a great offseason. And then you slot some of the guys currently on the roster in bench. Like, I think Marcus, for as great as Marcus has been, to me, on most other teams in the league, like good teams, he's a bench player. That's okay. I think that's just a better slotting for him. But that's like basically up and down the roster. I think right now, like if you could have Austin, Luka, a couple of those guys, and then either LeBron for one more year or go in a different direction and plug in another starter, then that's my dream scenario. But I think it has to be adding a long-term center and adding a long-term 2-way wing. If you check both those boxes, great offseason. I mean, the Lakers need more, right? Like they can build out a better back end of the roster. They could maybe use like a bench scorer type. There's several things that they could use, but I think like I believe in the macro here, and the macro is to me a better fit starter than Marcus and a long-term center solution. Nuggets lost the trade, says Watson is worth 10 to 12 million, same as Guy Santos. I could not disagree with that more. I don't think they're in the same stratosphere. I don't even think they're in multiple stratospheres. Like I think he's multiple tiers ahead of him. I mean, Watson might be outside of LeBron. Watson might be like the top free agent this summer. I mean, he might be the top free agent this summer. Watson is going to get paid. Jay notes up, by the way, Jovan, got to give you props on the spread call for this game we talked about Thursday. Was Denver minus 2.5, but closed Denver minus 1.5. Yeah. So I appreciate that. I thought about that. I checked it yesterday, then checked it before the game. It was 2.5, which is what I had projected, and then ended up closing at Denver minus 1.5. But hey, people who bet on the Lakers won. Julian asks, how many years Jokic Murray window left? I think Denver's got, I think Jokic is going to age well. I think he's already aged well. Like, you could argue statistically, like I thought he was having the best season of his career before he got injured, and then he ended up getting injured, and that kind of derailed his season in a way. But I mean, statistically, there was one point where he was, like leading. I think he was like number 3 in scoring and leading the league in rebounding and assists. And I mean, he's just been a beast. But I would say it depends how they manage things. Like, I think it's actually more so like how does Gordon age? Gordon has dealt with a lot of these hamstring injuries recently. He's dealt with his fair share of injuries. Are they able to keep Peyton Watson? What can Peyton Watson develop into? But if I would give them at least 3 more years of contention, but I would say a 3 to 5 year window, but it really depends on how they manage the rest of the starters and the depth, because I think they mismanaged things after the 2023 title. I think they mismanaged things before the 2023 title. Like, 2023 was the one year they kind of nailed it with the rotation. This is their deepest team, and you got to give them credit for Watson and identifying Spencer Jones and like some of the guys that even Christian Brown, drafting and developing him into what he's become. Like they've done a pretty good job the last couple of years at identifying wing talent and Aaron Gordon continuing to improve. But I would say a minimum of 3 years. But if they stretch that out any further, it's going to come down to the rest of the roster. I'm seeing a lot of catching up on the chat here. Tommen, what if Watson stinks in the playoffs? His value dips, and would Lakers still go for him? John Collins a better fit than Rui with Luka and AR. I think it'd actually be a positive if Watson stinks in the playoffs, like within reason, right? If he just completely shits the bed and just doesn't look like competent, then that's a different story. If he's just like, the jumper isn't falling or, it's just production isn't quite there, I think the Lakers could actually potentially benefit from that and take advantage of that. So I think he's because we also have to look at the context of like he was putting up a certain amount of production with Jokic out and there just was more usage and scoring and opportunity there. Similar to like when Austin has missed time, we've seen certain guys score more. When LeBron's missed time, when a star is out, there's going to be more usage and guys can kind of show more of what they can do because of now they're in a different role. So I think there's an element of that with Watson that we haven't really seen that version of Watson back with the full strength Nuggets. They've always kind of had 2 or 3 guys out where it's going to be interesting to see what they look like down the stretch with a potentially fully healthy team. But if he dips, like I don't see him dipping more than down to like 18, 20 million. And I think that like if you're 6'8", 6'9", and you have a baseline level of athleticism and you're an average to above average shooter and you could defend multiple positions, you're going to kind of walk into like an 18, $20 million contract. That's just how it kind of goes now. Like 3D wings and 2A wings are in vogue. They've been in vogue for the past 10 plus years. And that's like arguably the most important role player archetype. So I think there's only so far his value can drop, in my opinion. John Collins versus Rui. That's a tough one. Like John Collins is obviously a better athlete, more of a rim running roller type. He's also gotten better as a shooter. He's definitely a better rebounder than Rui. And I think I have more confidence in him at the 5 compared to Rui. He's kind of like a 4.5. Rui's like a 4.25, I guess. That's a tough one. I think they're like relatively similar with, they're both, in my opinion, like positives offensively with questions defensively. I'm pulling up Collins. I mean, he's averaging 14 points, 5 rebounds, just under a steal and a block, shooting 42% on 3 threes a game, 56% overall. I guess you could give the nod to I mean, I think Collins is like more dynamic. I think he's got more to his game, but if you're comparing them, Collins is just a couple percentage points lower than Rui on 1 fewer attempt per game on threes, but more efficient scorer from 2-point range, a better rebounder. I would say a more versatile defender. I think he's not like, I think he looks better than he is defensively sometimes because of the athleticism and like the physical profile. I don't think he's like some steady defender, but he's probably got more upside than Rui, but it would also for me depend on the contract. But like Rui's shooting is a real thing that, and the ability to attack a closeout, hit the pull-up jumper, but I do think Collins is more dynamic, if that makes sense. Trev Gamer asks, do we want AR to tank his value in the playoffs? I would personally no, because I really don't want to deal with the AR discourse and just how toxic it could get. But I mean, if he doesn't have a good postseason, obviously, like maybe the sweet spot of like he doesn't have the best postseason till which lowers his value, but then it's not like to the point where you're reconsidering his fit with Luka, because if he has a terrible postseason, then I think you have to have, I've said we have to have the discussion of do they fit together like that. That's its own thing at that point. But from the Lakers perspective, sure, that there could be some value in him like tanking his value. But I think if you also want to have a deep playoff run, like you're going to need a certain amount of production with Austin. Civic Citizen says Watson is Jeremy Grant 2.0. So I think I don't disagree. The caveat with this is that this is where I made this point, I want to say like a month or two ago. This is where Watson gets to pick what type of career he has, because Jeremy Grant was on a certain trajectory. And if Jeremy Grant wanted to be a starter on a good team, he could have been in a certain role as like the number 3 or the number 4 and not gotten paid as much, but fit into a winning environment and played a certain role. Instead, Jeremy Grant chased the bag, chased the production, chased being the guy or the number 2. And we've seen him just simply fall off from relevancy. And there's a real limit to Grant being your best or second best offensive player. And if that's the case, you're going to be a lottery team and potentially not even, or almost certainly not even like a play-in level lottery team, just a lottery team. And like now, Portland is going to be a play-in team, but it's not. I mean, Jeremy Grant's been solid and he's had I think he's had a bounce back season this year, but he's also like lower on their pecking order. He's not the number 1 or the number 2 there in Portland. So I think this is where Watson has to make a decision on his career. Does he stay in Denver? Does he go to LA? Maybe a couple other teams have some interest in him. Does he go be a starter, like a full-time starter on a good team? And I think buy into his role, like being like a star role. Like I think I made it. This was part of the comparison I made, but like there's the Jeremy Grant path, there's the Aaron Gordon path, right? I think Aaron Gordon just has more skill and talent than Jeremy Grant and Peyton Watson, and he was a top 5 pick. He was putting up certain numbers in Orlando, but the proper slotting of Aaron Gordon was being the number 3 in Denver and excelling in that role. I think Watson has that type of trajectory potentially if he wants to embrace it. If he wants to just chase the bag, or look, like he could go get $40 million from Brooklyn or $40 million from Chicago. Like that's possible, but you go to Chicago or Brooklyn, you're going to become Jeremy Grant. You go to LA, you stay in Denver, you, I think, can make some noise as a good starter on a good team. So I think he's got like a sliding doors moment coming up this summer of which way he wants his career to go. All right. Now I'm seeing people talk about the herd. Yeah, I'm on with Jason tomorrow. Jason McIntyre. No, I'm yet to be on with Colin, but I think that's going to come at some point, and I'm looking forward to that. But all right, I'm going to wrap here. Appreciate you guys. Ended up going an extra 20 minutes because that is what we do on Buha's block. But I'm going to go spend a little time with my wife, recover tomorrow, and get ready to go back at it on Monday with no Lakers Collective on Monday. We're doing it Tuesday to respond or react to Denver and Houston. But I got some content planned for the week coming up and excited for this road trip. This is going to be the latest set of tests for LA. The Houston games are going to be massive in terms of season series and LA's trajectory. Like if you blink and the Lakers lose the next couple games, all of a sudden you could see them back in that 5-6 mix. You blink and the Lakers win the next couple games, they're going to really create some distance there in the standings and be in a much stronger position to be the 3 or 4 seed. So some huge games coming up for the Lakers. This is a big road trip, the last big road trip of the season. But shout out to the chat. Shout out to the late night gang. As Tommy Gold says, best one of the season. 100% agree. And I've said that 3 of the past 4 games. I've stood by it 3 of the past 4 games. And I truly believe each one of the games has built on the previous one. So Lakers playing great basketball. They've won 5 in a row, 8 of 9. They are third in the West, and this is exciting. The Lakers are ascending, and let's see how the rest of the season plays out. But again, shout out to the chat. Appreciate you guys for rocking with me late tonight. For those watching on YouTube, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on channel notifications, and like and comment on this video. For those listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice, please be sure to follow, download, and leave a 5-star review. I'll be back on Monday. Talk to you all then. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.